If you're anywhere as old as I am, you'll remember in the late 90s and early 2000s that there would be the movie tie-in 3D boom. So if there's ever a family-orientated movie from like Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, there would always be a 3D platformer tie-in at the same time. And these would be largely safe-hand games, but very simplistic, aimed at a younger audience, but would provide like 5 or 6 hours of relatively genteel platforming action for people to soak up and enjoy. This is exactly how I feel about Koa and the Five Pirates of Mara, which is the first game from Chibig in their Dayland series that's moved away from the agricultural, crop-growing, animal-rearing, wholesome vibes that those agricultural games do, and it's moved it into a fully fledged 3D platformer. This reminds me of everything that's great about 2002 era gaming, where it's bright colours, bright chunky graphics, very obvious platforming gameplay, and just a simpler, happier, more positive time to be alive. Like, Koa doesn't have a drug problem, and that's okay that we don't have to explore that in this game. Anyway, just rant over. Koa is relatively simple and easy to control. She's a bit fuzzy, but not mobile fuzzy. It doesn't feel like it's been ported directly from mobile. It may well have been, but they've tightened up the controls a little bit. But her moveset is quite small, so she can walk, run, jump, ground punch, which also then turns into like a downward punch when you do some of the underwater swimming areas. And she also has like this barrel roll, which when you're running and jump, you can press another button to roll and that can smash through crates. But it's largely because it's the fastest way to traverse around the levels, becomes very helpful for the one of two ways that you can play this game. I'd argue this game needs to be played through twice. Firstly, from a story perspective, because in most of the levels there's between 1 to 3 hidden collectibles off the beaten track of the main path of a level that you need to be able to collect. And what that does is you bring these collectibles back to your hometown of Calais, which is like a central hub for the world of Mara. And so the overarching story is that Calais has basically been robbed by pirates, and they'll only give back all of your materials if you beat their trials. Oh yes, great story. But as you do that, you then buy back various upgrades of Calais and the town comes back to life again. And it's a really great visual representation of your progress in the game and works quite well from a look at me, I'm making progress vibe. Just don't think about the story and you'll be fine. The second way how you need to play this game though is from a speedrunning perspective, because every single level has a gold, silver and bronze time that you'll be aiming for. And that sometimes unlocks additional like collectible things and achievements. So if you're going for the platinum trophy, because I bought this on PlayStation 5, you'll need to play through the game twice, because in order to get a gold medal, quite often you have to not go down the hidden collectible paths, but you'll also have to barrel roll your way through anything that is vaguely straight so that you can gain enough time as possible so that you can hit that gold medal. Some of the levels are really tight on timings, others aren't. And yeah, you just need to be precise. But if you're just going for, I want to complete the game and have a nice time, this is actually a relatively real easy breeze to get through as a game. It's the speed running where the difficulty is. The levels themselves are relatively well designed and they fall into several different categories. You've got the traditional 3D platformers. Now the camera in this is fixed in like it moves itself around, and it largely does a very good job of placing itself in the right way so that you can get the right perspective of where it is that you need to be like bouncing and landing to or jumping to, and avoiding various like lava bombs and things like that. That works really, really well. There are some other levels that emulate good old Crash Bandicoot, where you're running either to or away from the camera being chased by something. And these levels are slightly more problematic with the camera, just as the Crash Bandicoot games were. And that's why I'm kind of saying, like, this brings along 2002 gaming sometimes for better and for worse, because it does suffer from that when you're running to the camera. Sometimes, like, you can't always see exactly where you're supposed to be jumping to. And there's some where you're racing against pirates in like a time trial, and the camera moves along at the pace of the AI pirate, not you. And so sometimes you get caught up in like traps that are rhythmic and timing based, where you're just like, well, I can't move from this because I've moved myself too fast. But if I don't, then sometimes I might be at the edge of the screen and it just felt a bit clunky at times. Those things are very few and far between though, and I'd largely say that from a camera perspective and a general level perspective, Korra and the Five Pirates of Mara nails the theming and the design and just making each level or world feel slightly different and offer a slightly different challenge. There are also some additional other levels too, around dropping a crane down to the surface of the sea so that you can find some like hidden sunken treasure, and they work a little bit like crane grabbers in an arcade. So you're just moving it left and right and then doing like a little boost to avoid the fish and all of the spikes and mines that are everywhere. And then there are also some like not endless runner style levels, but very similar, where you're constantly bouncing from like boost pad to boost pad and you're just steering Koa around, and you get like forks in the paths, and some of them will have collectibles on, some of them won't, for example. So that might take some multiple playthroughs to get it right. There are a couple of boss battles in this game. Not all of them are straightforward boss battles. Some of them are races. But where you do actually have to pick up something, it might be like picking up a bomb and throwing it at an octopus, for example, that's busy like shooting things at you or spanking their tentacles at you, and you've got to like roll out of the way. They're, again, very, very simple. It's one of those ones where you just you spot the pattern and then hit it 3 times and then they evolve. Very, very retro 3D platformer, but I'm here for it because it was just a happy, joyous vibe. I also wanted to give a shout out, not just to the graphics, but to the soundtrack. It's joyous, it's upbeat, it's lively. It's not one of those ones that's got tons of earworms that then get stuck in your brain forever. But if you're a fan of the Dayland series, you'll recognise an awful lot of themes. And to be fair, a lot of the characters appear on Callis and all of the different worlds that you go to. So if you've played any of the series' games beforehand, they'll pop out and you'll notice loads of the characters and all of the places that you visit basically from the previous games. And it's great to see it in a 3D world. This is definitely one where series veterans will get more out of it, but I wouldn't say that you have to play the other games first before you need to play Korra and the Five Pirates of Mara, because everything is standalone. There just might be some references in the story where you just kind of go, oh, I don't really quite fully get the full impact of what it is that someone might be saying, but it's very, very rare that you kind of get a moment. I had good fun playing Korra and the Five Pirates of Mara. It's not going to change anyone's life. It's probably better at a younger audience, or those of you that are looking for a much more relaxed, retro, simplistic, back to the old days of 3D platforming action that you're looking for. And I particularly think that speedrunners will quite enjoy this game as well, because of that whole every level is speedrunnable and you have to chain up things and get it perfect sometimes to get that gold medal, which will be immensely satisfying. But yeah, I think for a first go at a 3D platformer, particularly for a developer that's never done this type of stuff before, Chibig, they've done all right. Written review will be over on highplanegames.com. Any comments or questions, leave them down below. Have fun. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Plane Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.